What's up, and welcome to the DualSense podcast. This is episode 132. 132. I'm one of your co-hosts. I go by Jason. I'm joined, of course, by your other co-host, who is calling himself today Gene Hackman. Jean, as in
Mhm.
pants. Nice pair of denim jeans, Hackman. He's also known as Travis. What's up? What's going on tonight?
That is a 2-week play on the first name Gene, and you are welcome for
Yes.
that.
Yeah, what was it? It was Gene, Gene, Claude Van Damme last time,
Yeah,
right?
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
You've been playing in this, huh?
Yeah, it was a good time. So I had a great week. I had a conference call with some lads from Manchester, and they sound
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
exactly like they're from Manchester, so that was a lot of fun. I had to turn my camera off so I could giggle to myself for a minute. So
Yeah. They were
them
proper Brits, huh?
yeah, them trying to figure out how to record a Zoom call with their accents was unbelievable. Like, I had to turn the camera off. It was hilarious. I was like, "Jesus Christ."
Yeah, so it was Manchester. Is that Cogni? Like, how
The
bad
guy
was it?
talking was cognate as fuck.
Was he?
Yeah, he sounded like your boy Big Dunk in that interview about the vegan burgers. I don't know what the fuck he was saying.
That fucking killed me, by the way.
You know, they would, like, ask a question, and I was like I had one of my leads talking to them, and I was like, "When they ask you a question, you have to listen." He's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "You'll know what I mean."
You gotta pay attention.
It's gonna be English, but not really.
Yeah, it's English, but it's not the kind of English that you're used to. We've talked about this before, but isn't it amazing that they are the proprietors of the English language, as it were, and yet you can hardly understand them a lot of the time. Like, not all the time. It just depends, right? But I mean, I guess it's the
Yeah.
same way in the States. People probably listen to me and they're like, I can't understand a fucking thing this fucking hillbilly's saying. So, anyway, well, I've got a pistachio latte here with me. It's appropriately nutty.
Or is it green?
It's not green, it's just pistachio syrup. And it's not
Which
bad.
is
It's
not
interesting.
green? I'm confused. It should be green.
No, it's artificially flavored. You know what I'm saying?
I
But
I guess.
yeah, yeah. But pistachio, I love pistachio. I actually like pistachio ice cream. I
Mhm.
prefer it to be in spumoni. Have you ever had spumoni?
Yes, it's really, really good.
It's wonderful. It's one of my favorite treats that I've only had like a handful of times in my life. Very hard to locate where we are, but so anyway, I'm enjoying my latte so far. It's interesting. And the other thing that I want to say is I'm happy to report that just before I came down to record, that my wife informed me that from the neck down I look like David Beckham. So suck my dick, and you know I'm here. I've
I don't know
arrived.
what that means. You have 0 tattoos.
I don't I don't know either. I just looked at her and laughed. I said, What are you telling me right now?"
Also, you're
I
way
s-
hairier than him. I've seen him without a shirt on. He
yeah.
has
I
0
said
hair.
Also, I said, "He's ripped, babe." I said, "He is ripped." I said, "Probably not anymore." I said, "But he was." She's like, "I don't know. Just when I see him in those underwear advertisements or whatever, I think about you." I'm like, "Okay, I guess." So anyway,
That is the most asinine thing I've ever heard.
yeah. So anyway, I mean, it's a good thing. She
Jesus
loves me, I
Christ.
guess.
Put that
Yeah.
part in the fucking preview for the episode.
Oh, yeah. I told her I was going to tell it on the podcast. She said, "You
Jesus
are?"
Christ.
I said, "Yeah, of course I am." You said I look like fucking David Beckham. Why would I not go tell
You should
everybody
feel
that?
good about that.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Now, if she would told me that I looked just like David Beckham from the waist down, we would have had a different conversation.
Yeah, but wow, I'm glad she knows that. Mhm.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, she looks just like Diana after the car crash.
we've been watching The Crown, so that's
That's
good.
fitting.
Yeah. Anyway, Travis, we are a weekly podcast, believe it or not, where you and I talk about PlayStation, and we get together each and every week to discuss all the news, rumors, new game releases, and much more in the world of PlayStation. We do it all in under 90 minutes, and we post new episodes on all of the usual podcast services around the world on Mondays, as well as YouTube, where you can get our shows every week, as well as gameplay videos occasionally. And I don't think that I've posted any. I feel like I recorded something, but maybe forgot to. But anyway, we're on YouTube as well, but we're also on social media, of course. Our primary feed is Twitter, where we go by at the DualSense Pod, but you can also find us on Facebook and Instagram, where we share virtual photography. You can also check out our blog if you want to get your shows there. It's the dualsensepodcast.wordpress.com. Our pictures are there, our bios, and the show notes each week. So, yeah, find us and chat with us and check us out. And without further ado, let's get into an interesting week of news here, starting with number one. PlayStation Studio Naughty Dog confirmed this week that they are no longer working on the Uncharted series and added that they may even be done with The Last of Us if they cannot find the right story to tell. In an interview with BuzzFeed, Naughty Dog co-president Neil Druckmann said, quote, "I know there's a bunch of people wondering about The Last of Us Part 3 and whether that will be a thing or not. All I could say is at Naughty Dog, we're very, very privileged that our publisher is Sony, which means Sony funds our games, supports us, and we're owned by Sony. They have supported us every step of the way to follow our passions, meaning that just because something is successful, people think there's all this pressure and we have to make a sequel. That's not the case. For us, Uncharted was insanely successful. Uncharted 4 was one of our best selling games, and we're able to put our final brushstroke on that story and say that we're done. We're moving on. Likewise, with The Last of Us, it's up to us whether we want to continue it or not. Our process is the same thing we did when we did part 2, which is if we can come up with a compelling story that has the universal message and statement about love, just like the first and second games did, then we will tell that story. If we can't come up with something, we have a very strong ending with part 2, and that will be the end." End quote. Druckmann previously told the Script Apart podcast, that's a good name, in April of 2021 that a story outline for a third game has been written, but that the game was not in active development. He also told The Hollywood Reporter recently that Naughty Dog might have plans for a third entry in the series, saying, quote, "I think there's more story to tell," end quote. Of course, the only project that we know Naughty Dog is currently working on is The Last of Us multiplayer, which has been in production since before The Last of Us Part 2 released in June of 2020, and which Druckmann says we will hear more about this year. So if Naughty Dog is not working on a third entry in The Last of Us, then what else are they doing? That is a mystery at this point, with only rumblings that the studio is potentially developing a fantasy game of some sort. Okay, so a lot to unpack there, but what do you think about them being done with Uncharted, maybe being done with The Last of Us, if they really are, etc.?
Well, I mean, every game's a fantasy game, but anyway,
Touche. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
surprised but not surprised about Uncharted. Like,
Hmm.
I read a tweet that said Uncharted 4 ended at a perfect place for the series. It was a great cutoff point, and I thought
Mm-hmm.
the more I thought about it, I agree with that in a sense. Like, I feel like they set it up to where they could either, as we've talked about, dive straight into a new series focused on his kids, maybe, or some other branch of that kind of narrative.
Right.
Definitely not around Nathan Drake. Like, that's definitely over. Or
Mm-hmm.
the more I think about it, quitting or ending it there does kind of make sense. So I could see the argument. It seems like they set it up in a way where they could continue if they wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
but there is a clean break there in a way because it feels like Nathan's story is over there. So I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't played The Last of Us, but I would assume you could say The Last of Us Part 2 could be ambiguous in that way as well. Like, it could go either way, would be my
Sure.
guess.
That's fair. Yeah, I would say so.
That's fine. I can live with Uncharted not being made again. I'm not the person that thinks I have to have 100 of one thing. I mean, sometimes things run a course, and if
Mm.
Uncharted 4 is the end, then it's the end. You know, I mean, how many Grand Theft Autos are we gonna get? I know it's the best-selling game of all time, but you get the idea, right? Like, at what point do
Yeah.
you reach your saturation level? Like, I really want another Red Dead, but will I want a fourth one? I mean, that's a good question. So it's nice to see that they feel like they're at their limit and they're kind of going out on top with a franchise. And I would assume we'll see a similar thing with The Last of Us. But what I think is more likely is, for The Last of Us at least, is that story will get pushed through television, not necessarily the game. Like, if this TV show keeps rating as high as it is, it seems to me like you could push the narrative in that forum, and maybe it's a better way to push that narrative. Like,
Mm.
we've talked about PlayStation being involved in all these different mediums now. Like, they could do movies and games and music and all this other stuff. Taking a studio they own, taking an IP from that studio, developing it into a TV show. that's kind of, is that the best of both worlds where you're getting a game that's highly regarded and now you're getting to develop it for a newer audience on TV? You're making money off of it twice in a way. Like,
Mhm.
it seems like a decent idea. So that feels more likely to me at this point than a third game. And part of that's because, it's a new medium, and maybe Neil could get sucked into that. Like, it's a new venture. It's kind of fun. So that would be my guess for those two things. But would you ask me what I think Naughty Dog's doing right now? I think it's worried about another Uncharted movie and a season 2 of The Last of Us TV
Mhm.
show. I think that's what they're doing. But from
Mhm.
a video game standpoint, other than they say they're working on 3 things, so we'll see.
I think a lot of things about this. First of all, yes, I agree with you. I think that if Uncharted never happened again, it's fine. It's more than fine where it's at. Uncharted 4 ends in a way. It's one of the best endings to any game that I've ever played. So I remember it pretty fondly. So I think they could walk away from it and be totally fine where it's at and just make the movies. They've got enough content there, enough story from the 4 games, and and then what's the Lost Legacy and all that. So that
Mhm,
there's plenty of story there that they can tell in movies, plenty to tell in like a trilogy of movies, in my opinion. The one caveat here that I want to say about Uncharted is that yes, while Naughty Dog is done with Uncharted, we've talked about on the show how there's reports of another studio within PlayStation making a new Uncharted game. And there's the rumors that it's that secret team in San Diego or whatever.
mhm.
So, do I think Sony is done with Uncharted as a video game? No, not necessarily. I think that there's some truth to the fact that they're making some sort of Uncharted reboot, spin-off or something like that at a different studio. So, is that a good decision or bad decision? I don't know. Is it a good decision for Naughty Dog to leave Uncharted behind? Yes, I think so. It's time for them to move on. As far as The Last of Us, I think they have to make part 3. I think that they are or will make part 3. I think Neil has almost hinted as much, saying that they have an outline for a story and that he thinks there's more story to tell. I think that is somewhat the writing on the wall. I think that they have enough carryover from the second game to where they can definitely make a third game and probably wrap it up with that. It's weird that they're not committing to that, but at the same time, PlayStation Studios and Naughty Dog, I wouldn't anticipate them just like coming out of the blue and saying, "Yeah, we're making The Last of Us Part 3." Like,
Yeah, that feels too soon right now.
yeah, I wouldn't expect them to do that at this point. So, do I think The Last of Us Part 3 is happening? Yes. I don't know where it falls in the cards in terms of timeline because, they've got the multiplayer game to get out hopefully this year. And then I'm pretty convinced that they're working on 3 projects in total, meaning multiplayer, The Last of Us Part 3, and a third project, which is a new IP, which I actually think is the game that Neil is working on. I don't think that he's working on The Last of Us Part 3 other than contributing to writing it, because he's also made those comments about how they're going to write it with like a group of writers or, multiple people, several people writing it. So I totally see him helping write part 3, The Last of Us, but someone else directing and all that stuff. So while he focuses on his fantasy game or whatever they're making. So that's just kind of my thoughts on how everything is shaking out behind the scenes. Hopefully, after not the weird thing is Naughty Dog has like a lot of time really if you want to think about, like, even though part 2 came out in 2020, we know that the multiplayer Last of Us game is next. And then we know they're doing the show. So like they have a lot of time before we have to hear about what is next after the multiplayer game. So it could be a while before we really have any clarity on this. Number 2, speaking of The Last of Us, HBO officially renewed The Last of Us television series for a second season this week after its meteoric success. They revealed this week that The Last of Us jumped 22% in viewership from episode 1 to 2, the largest jump ever for an HBO original drama series. As of Monday, 5.7 million people had watched episode 2, with episode 1 ballooning to 22 million viewers since its premiere. As predicted, the success of the television show has led to a massive increase in sales for the video games as newcomers flock to the IP. In the United Kingdom alone, The Last of Us Part 1 sales skyrocketed more than 238%, while The Last of Us Remastered jumped up a whopping 322% in sales week over week. The show is also becoming hugely popular online in general, as website Television Stats reported that as of January 27th, the show is the number one most torrented show, the number one most visited Wikipedia page, the number one fastest growing show on Reddit, the number one fastest growing show on Twitter in terms of mentions, and the number one in IMDb popularity, and the number 16 most searched term on Google. And finally, HBO has made the first episode of the show available for free on YouTube this week if you've been curious but not ready to commit. Okay, so again, just huge success for the show. And we're getting a second season. What do you think?
Well, nothing surprising here from HBO. Like you would do that, obviously, if that's your viewership. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's an obvious renewal.
Yeah, it's a no
But
brainer.
obviously, kudos to them for pulling the trigger on it and recognizing the opportunity they had to jump on this. Like you said, though, the video games jumping in sales, not surprising. It's more interesting to see the numbers, what the numbers actually are. To see that like the remaster jumped 300% is fucking crazy. Like that's what I thought would be more interesting. Not not exactly that it would jump. That was a given, but the amounts are really really interesting to me.
Hmm.
When you follow that up with all the things they're the number one on, like most torrented, that's hilarious. Didn't know people still did that.
Right.
The number one Wikipedia page on Reddit, like all of that is very interesting. And I'm sure you could say like, what other new TV shows are they competing with? And the answer is I don't know, but part of that is because The Last of Us is making it's so big right now that nobody knows what the other new shows are.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just not in the ether. But the most interesting thing to me is they put out the first episode for free on YouTube. I don't think I've ever heard of that before. Like that's really interesting.
Yeah. I know. That was new to me too. I don't know if that's been happening, like if that's a thing now or not, but yeah.
So I looked up, you said that 22 million viewers have watched episode 1 since its premiere, and I thought that's you just don't hear about numbers like that in TV anymore. So I looked up the
Hmm.
largest finale ever watched, and it was MASH, and it was 105 million. And
Wow.
yeah, so I really thought it was the same number, and then it was definitely not.
Yeah.
So, but still, 22 million, dude. Like that's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it'd be big, but not like this is like a questionable big. It's like something. It's just weird. Like, who would have thought it would be
Yeah.
this big? It's insane.
It's more people than watch, live sporting events. I mean, some of the some of the biggest games each week, like
Mhm.
that's way more viewers than some of the biggest
YouTube has
sporting
live
events.
sports.
Yeah. So obviously that I'm not surprised by the success of the show at all, because I've been saying on our show for a long time that I thought it was going to be big. So that doesn't shock me. What does shock me is just how big it is, the scale of how big it has become, how popular it has become. I thought that it was definitely going to be, one of the most talked about shows, something that people talk about on Mondays at work and stuff like that. But in terms of, being HBO's biggest show in over a decade, and having that type of viewership and all that, and getting renewed only after, two episodes,
Mhm.
I wouldn't have predicted that. But, it goes back to the point of kind of what we were talking about earlier. I don't know that Naughty Dog can afford to walk away from The Last of Us at this point on the video game side. I think they have at least to get that third game out. I just don't know that they can walk away from that. But at the same time, there is going to be the multiplayer game, which they say is going to have its own story, its own characters, and stuff like that. So that sounds like that's also going to be a breeding ground for storylines and whatnot. So that'll be interesting to kind of watch and see how that develops in tandem with the show as well. But, it's big. This is what happens when you have shows based off game properties. The games become just infinitely more popular. All of a sudden, you get people into the fold who've never played the games before and stuff like that. So I I know I say it every time we talk about the show, but I just cannot help but think about what would be happening if they could have gotten or could be preparing to get the multiplayer game out. before this season of the show ends. And it is what it is. But I'll maintain that I think that's a big swing and a miss for Naughty Dog. Number 3, a new developer has signed up to work on the Horizon universe of games as Brighton and Hove, or is it Hove or Hove? It doesn't matter. Brighton and
Hove,
Hove, I guess.
like
Brighton
the
and
soccer club, right?
same town. Brighton and Hove, United Kingdom-based developer Studio Gobo announced this week that they are now a co-developer on the Horizon franchise. Gobo has previously acted as co-developers on Hogwarts Legacy, Redfall, Disney Infinity, and For Honor, among other titles. The studio has over 110 employees and is led by the former co-founders of BlackRock Studio, the team behind racing games Pure and Split Second. The safest bet is that they are working on the online co-op project, which sounds quite a bit like an MMO, that Guerrilla Games announced back in December. So, what do you think about a new second party relationship of sorts and working on a Horizon game, probably the MMO?
Yeah, I think now that I'm basically British after one meeting, pretty excited to have my brethren involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's weird to me. I guess it's like the semantics of it to be called a co-developer. Like that's very different than
Mm,
like a partner or like a studio's
mm,
helping out. Like when you say co-developer, it's like, bro, Horizon is like a whole thing.
right.
It just very strange to me that it's worded in that way. Especially like I don't know, man. Just the way that it's worded is strange to me, but it is interesting. I mean, they've worked on games that we've actually heard of, even us people who don't
Yeah.
play games all the time. So it's not like they
Right.
don't have some legs under them. They have some experience. 110 people is a nice sized team. It would make sense that they would, like you said, they jump on the MMO. I don't really have a better idea than that, but it's the whole I get the co-developer thing is weird because it's like the Gorilla made the game.
Yeah, it's very akin to me to like how on Call of Duty there's like Infinity Ward and Raven Software and Treyarch, or even look at Battlefield, you got like Dice and then you got Criterion. You know what I'm saying? They have like
Mhm.
multiple studios working on it. It's almost like that's what they're trying to do with this.
Yeah, I
It sounds like a
guess.
fancy way to say support studio.
It just say support studio. I don't know.
Yeah,
Co-developers like me and you wrote a paper that won a Nobel Prize. That's a co-developer. But anyway,
sure.
I didn't jump in at the end and edit the spelling mistakes to become a co-writer. Anyway, that's
Mm,
kind of what I feel like's happening. I'm sure it's more in depth than that, but
yeah.
it's just I'm stuck on this clearly. But no, I mean that makes sense, and I think it'll be more interesting to see what happens after they come out with this MMO. Do they stay on as a quote unquote co-developer, or do they go help co-develop Madden or something? Something else they can jump in on the coattails of.
I'm very happy that you brought that up because I think that what history has told us about how PlayStation operates and how they develop relationships with studios and developers that they later on become full partners with, meaning that they make them first party PlayStation studios, is that they bring teams into the fold, working on their IPs, working on their properties. And then if they like what they see, they buy them and make them full blown studios for PlayStation first party. So to me, this seems like one of those teams, especially given the type of IP that they work on, large IP, Hogwarts, Legacy, Disney, For Honor was big. Redfall is coming out in May for Xbox. So the fact that they've worked on these big games, the fact that they're working on what clearly is now one of Sony PlayStation's biggest IPs in Horizon, I think that if things go well, this could be a team that PlayStation acquires into the first party potentially. So that's how that reads to me.
One of the things that those other studios have had an advantage of is after they've helped quote unquote co-develop, they've actually had original ideas that they could sell to Sony that were legit.
Yeah.
Everything that you've listed, Gobo's been a co-developer on, so it'll be interesting to see what their version of whatever it is. Like what
Right.
is a Gobo MMO that's purely Gobo? I'm not sure we have a basis for that yet. So that'll be interesting because if let's say they kick ass on all this stuff and Sony's like, cool, we want to make you a partner, but they don't have an idea. I
Mm,
mean, that's not really a
yeah.
partnership you enter into.
That's a good point too, because these guys, going back to the thought process of are they a support team in terms of, we talk about on the show about how there's developers, there's studios out there who they do one thing, like they create art They make characters and whatever for studios and just like pump out, character designs and environment designs. And like that's what they do when they make that stuff for studios. So, like you said, it's a good point. Are these guys have creative bones and DNA in them, or are they just like guys who are really good at like doing lighting and ray tracing or shit like that?
Right.
That's a fair point. Like, are they a specialty studio or are they everything front to back? So that's a fair point. That's a good catch. We'll see. Number 4, as we close in on the February 22nd launch of PlayStation VR2, website Games Industry has spoken to several developers who are bringing their titles to the next gen headset, either with an upgrade from PSVR1 or a port from another platform. While admittedly much of the PSVR2's launch window lineup are upgrades and ports, Games Industry says that the general consensus among developers that they talk to is that they did not want to just do a simple port job. Instead, most have chosen to make the PSVR2 version the best version of their game. 17-bit, the developers of survival game Song in the Smoke, for example, said they went all in for the PSVR2 version of the game, saying, quote, "We had one build in the Unreal Engine that we could export to high-end PC all the way down to Quest, so we had to take into account all the different settings because everything had to come out of the same basket. But because the PSVR2 version would be a clean, single thing, we could go all in and exploit the hardware in a way that we weren't able to before." Before I kick it over to you, I was reading about several developers who were making these sorts of comments this week. And there's another game that we're going to talk about in a little while that got announced as a PSVR2 launch game that is on other VR headsets already, a Zombieland game. And they have basically done a full blown remaster of their game for PSVR2 and added all kinds of new shit. So, anyway, I say all that to say, like, what is your thoughts on the fact that developers are seemingly making PSVR2 like their
Mhm.
primary platform, the best version of their games, etc.?
Two things I take from it. One is it was a fair knock to say, well, most of the games are ports or
Yeah,
remasters. Like that's a fair knock.
for sure.
But the strong rebuttal to that is what the developers say about actually porting the game. The one common theme is, yeah, we didn't want to do a normal port. We wanted to make it a remaster. We wanted to pull out all the stops and make it what we, in a sense, able to complete the vision for the game. Maybe they couldn't do that on PSVR one or on
Hmm.
Oculus or Quest or whatever it's on, right?
Hmm.
So that's very clear. But the other thing it really tells you is, for whatever reason, PlayStation has made this hardware, it seems like they've made it developer friendly, or at least the accessibility of it seems to be pretty good, that you can take it and really dive into what you want and manipulate it and use it in the way you want it to take full advantage of the hardware's capabilities. Like that's a common knock that I've heard on VR before, is like it's just missing something, and it seems like they've at this point, based off the comments, it seems like PlayStation's kind of hit that mark dead on. So that's a good sign, I think.
Yeah, I think that's well said and good points. I think that it reads to me this kind of conversation this week about developers bringing their games to PSVR2. It reads to me like you said, the hardware has enabled them to do things that they either didn't think about or couldn't do or maybe wanted to do but couldn't on the other VR headsets. And not that necessarily PSVR2 is like the most powerful VR headset, because I think that there's already been stuff announced since then that'll be more powerful, but
Mhm.
it also I think highlights the fact that PlayStation has done something that other companies have not done to this point, although they will surely be doing in the future as things that are successful in the industry get aped by other companies. But that thing is an emphasis on immersion. So you have things like adaptive triggers, you have things like haptic feedback, you have things like headset rumble, etc. And you have these other, small features like eye tracking and stuff like that we talk about. And so I think it speaks to the point that PlayStation has made a headset that developers want to develop for, that have given them ideas for new features for their games, and that has created a space for the best way to play some of these games with the most immersive experiences with the most features and so on. So the cool thing about what we're seeing from the ports and from VR2 in general, or hearing about it, at least it's not out yet, but when you sit down and think about the DualSense and then they're translating that over to the Sense VR controllers, it's almost like, yeah, that makes total sense. Like, why are we just now playing games that way? You know what I'm saying? Like, why do we just now have adaptive triggers? Why do we just now have haptic feedback
Yeah.
and so on and so
We had
forth?
the
So,
Rumble Pack on the 64.
yeah, it's not the same though, but, but yeah, so I don't know. I guess in other words, I appreciate the little touches, the little features, the little ways that Sony is trying to innovate on with the way games are played because you and I have talked about it a little bit on the show before. It's getting harder and harder to make games look good,
Mhm.
right? Like we almost it almost feels like how much better can games look, you
Yeah.
know? Like yeah, Unreal Engine 5 looks great. Don't get me wrong, it does look a lot better than what we've seen so far, but like is that always going to be the case
Yeah.
or are we going to have to focus on things like haptics and triggers and whatever?
I saw a screenshot of the last they put out a new Forza trailer and then they showed screenshots from the previous 2 and then the same car in the new trailer or whatever, and, like, they look different,
Mhm.
but I wouldn't say one looks better than the other. They just look different,
Yeah.
like, the light trace is different and this looks
Yeah.
it's just like the lights look better on this version than this like, it's just I don't know, man, like, it just seems like we've hit a point, like a homeostasis or something.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're going to look back on this. I think we're going to look back on PS5, the DualSense, PSVR2, and we're going to think of it as the hardware that started to wage like this new battle within the console war in terms of, okay, we've got to do something different. We've got to find a way to differentiate ourselves. We've got to find a way to stand out to people who don't notice 4K versus 1440p or whatever, like exactly what you said. People who look at those pictures and say they're the same car. You know what I'm saying? Like you
Mhm.
got to find something to get those people in the door and to create a different experience. So, anyway, I say all that to say that it's cool to see that this hardware is allowing developers to do different stuff and to take the time to do more than just a port on their VR games. So, a lot of which I'm excited about. All right, number 5, we have a bunch of news nuggets here as well. First nugget, musical artist The Kid Laroi is the next Fortnite musical experience beginning on January 27th. So today, the day of recording.
I heard if you drink him, it just tastes like, carbonated water.
Yeah. Yeah, you can get like Blackberry Kid Laroi and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, musical puzzle strategy game Backbeat is heading to PS4 and PS5, presumably sometime this year, and a demo is available now on the PlayStation Store. And I tried it and I had to quit playing it. It was like all
Mm.
this text reading and shit, and like just let me play the game.
Yeah.
Anyway, the DualSense Edge controller launched this week and it seems to be getting mostly positive reviews, although the battery life only clocks in at about 4 hours.
Mhm.
And in fact, in a teardown of the controller, it was confirmed that the battery itself is much smaller than the OG
That makes
DualSense.
sense.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
the original version lasted 10 hours, but people kept calling their doctor.
Oh, that's good. Also, website Video Games Chronicle reported that the delayed PS5 version of Football Manager 2023 will now release on February. What? I think it's February 1st. Sorry. I didn't put it in here. February 1st, 2023. PlayStation Plus subscribers can pick it up at a 20% discount until February 14th. So you're going to take your hand at Footy Manager 2023?
I doubt it. I saw one guy did a Steven injury build, and he got him in 6 years, he got him into, like, the Europa he got him into some European Cup, and they won their first match. I was like, "God, that is a hell of a rise."
And that is certainly. Also, I love seeing comments on soccer Twitter about people saying things like, "Yeah, the lad played Football Manager and made that trade, and he thinks it's a good one in real life." Or made that transfer.
Mhm.
Like I love when people crush people about Football
Well,
Manager.
Todd
Anyway,
Bowley's running Chelsea like it's fucking Football Manager, so
yeah, yeah, he fucking is. Y'all bought someone else today.
we just buy everything.
Financial fair play, my asshole. That's
Oh,
all I gotta say. Anyway, next nugget: the Division style MMO clone the day before has been delayed 8 months over an alleged trademark issue. The game has been continually delayed and has drawn comparisons online to former alleged PlayStation exclusive Abandoned, meaning it is vaporware that will never see the light of day. This game is not real. It does not. It's not a real game. There's no way.
Just a pyramid scheme.
Exactly. Wrestling title AEW Fight Forever's release date is now in limbo, but unlike the day before, it actually exists. The issue stems from the game failing to achieve a teen rating from the ESRB due to the amount of blood and gore in the game. Okay. It's interesting. I guess they wanted to. I was going to say just make it M, but they probably want it to be teen, so parents will buy it for their kids and whatever. I get that. Publisher Nacon confirmed a new launch window for The Lord of the Rings Gollum. The title will now release sometime between April and September of this year. Does anyone care?
I don't know, but there's a great video of Andy Serkis reading Donald Trump tweets as Gollum.
Oh, that's hilarious. I'll have to look that up. Also, Ubisoft has hired former Dead Island 2 design director Bernd Diemer, I guess, as its new editorial VP to focus on in-game social experiences for their live service games.
I was interested until the last part of that sentence.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Because like design director, I think you can make some cool stuff with the amount of money Ubisoft has. Like that's a pretty cool idea, but never mind.
Xbox has subpoenaed PlayStation for documents and data to help it build its court case against the FTC lawsuit. Sony had until today, January 27th, to respond according to court filings. So they're asking for PlayStation's help and some data to prove their case. Good luck. Marvel's Spider-Man 2 actor Yuri Lowenthal, who plays Spider-Man, has described the upcoming PS5 exclusive as quote-unquote massive, or massing as I have here, and quote-unquote astonishing. Very excited about this.
I was going to ask you what massing meant.
Yeah. Also, WWE 2K23 has been officially confirmed for a March 17th release date, with John Cena, or Juan Cena, gracing the cover of all editions of the game, as we said was rumored last week. It's official now. Those who purchase premium versions will get 3 days of early access starting on March 14th. CD Projekt Red has said that Cyberpunk 2077's upcoming expansion, Phantom Liberty, has the biggest budget of any CD Projekt Red game, DLC, to date. Infinity Ward is finally bringing hardcore mode to Modern Warfare 2 with the introduction of Season 2 on February 15th, among other features. Developer Crystal Dynamics announced that support for Marvel's Avengers will be ending this year. The final update to the game will go live on March 31st, with all official support ending on September 30th, which means that the game will no longer be available to purchase on storefronts, but it will still be playable in both single and multiplayer, they have said. RIP to that.
It's always kind of sad when these games go into hospice care.
It is, yeah. It's it's weird because we played that game for a while. I really don't think it's a bad game. Like I think it's a fun game. I don't know. And it's especially weird because it's a Marvel property, several Marvel properties, and it just couldn't find its footing. Also, Disney Dreamlight Valley has revealed its early 2023 content roadmap. The next major update is dropping in February and will include Mirabelle from Encanto and Olaf from Frozen. The update will also expand on the main story and add a new Star Path, which is a battle pass themed around Disney's 100th anniversary. Big changes are heading to Warzone 2.0 with its second season, which launches on February 15th. The Gulag is reverting to 1v1 battles. Players will now drop loot onto the ground instead of backpacks like the previous Warzone. 3-plate armor vests are also returning, and hardcore modes are coming to the main game proper. That and a whole bunch of other changes. They've got full patch notes out now. Bloomberg reports that the United States Federal Trade Commission sued Microsoft over the Activision deal in an effort to dissuade EU regulators from accepting a settlement deal over the acquisition. And along those lines, Travis, PlayStation boss Jim Ryan reportedly met with EU antitrust boss lady Margrethe Vestager this week to discuss the Microsoft Activision deal, according to news outlet Reuters. So the U.S. is, or the FTC, trying to keep the EU at bay, keep them from approving this, and then you got crying Jim Ryan going to try to put a stop to it as well. So I don't know. I still don't know if this is going to go through or not. Also, website Kotaku and Insider Gaming reported that Ubisoft is currently developing Far Cry 7 as well as a standalone Far Cry multiplayer game. Talk about franchises that are just getting ran into the ground.
Yeah, for sure.
Jesus. The Ubisoft way. Also, website GamesIndustry.biz reported that Skybound Entertainment, the company behind the Walking Dead games and the Invincible comics and show, are now seeking crowdfunding support where you can own a part of the company for a minimum investment of $500, rising all the way to $2 million if you wish. Mass Effect trilogy writer Mac Walters has left developer BioWare after nearly 20 years with the studio. Speaking of publisher Skybound Entertainment, they've made a multi-million-dollar investment into Mega Cat Studios, the Pittsburgh-based developer of wrestling RPG WrestleQuest, which is scheduled to launch in May. Website PushSquare reported that Super Stardust Portable received full trophy support this week. The Housemarque developed shooter originally released on PSP and was added to PlayStation Plus Premium Collection last year. This marks the first time that trophies have been retroactively added to a premium catalog title, something that was previously thought to be impossible. So that's pretty cool, now that we know that's real. Sci-fi adventure game Journey to the Savage Planet will get a PS5 upgrade on February 14th, and it will be a free upgrade for owners of the PS4 version. Mimimi Games. I don't know how to say that. The developers of Shadow Tactics Blades of the Shogun and Desperados 3 have revealed their next strategy title called Shadow Gambit, The Cursed Crew, which takes the same gameplay and sets it during the golden age of piracy. Sounds kind of cool. World War Z received its PS5 upgrade this week, which added the Horde Mode XL feature that puts 1,000 zombies on screen at one time. City Builder SteamWorld Build was announced to be coming to PS4 and PS5 sometime later this year as the SteamWorld franchise continues to venture into new genres. And this looks wonderful. This is one of my most anticipated games of the year now. Looks
What,
great.
what kind of shit are you building? Is it like steampunk?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, you're building little steampunk cities. Yeah.
I like that. I like steampunk.
Also, insider Tom Henderson has teased that Sony may skip a PlayStation 5 Pro in favor of jumping straight to the PlayStation 6, as he has heard more about that, the latter, than the former, he says. Supermassive Games have delayed their PSVR2 launch game, The Dark Pictures Switchback VR, from February 22nd to March 16th, so still in the launch window. After being delayed yet again by Ubisoft, pre-orders of Skull and Bones are being refunded on the PlayStation Store now that it has no future release date. And Tom Henderson also reported this week that he's hearing that from current playtests that things have not been fixed or addressed from previous playtests. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be great. I mean, God, I can't wait to see it. They just released it. I want to see how many people actually pay for it.
Also, first-person shooter Atomic Heart has gone gold ahead of its February 21st release on PS4 and PS5. City building game Townsman VR is launching alongside PSVR 2 on February 22nd. God of War Ragnarok has been nominated for 5 awards at the GDC Awards in March. That's the Game Developers Conference, I believe. It was nominated for Game of the Year, Best Audio, Best Narrative, Best Technology, and Best Visual Art. Horizon Forbidden West was nominated for Best Audio, Best Technology, Best Visual Art. Stray was nominated for a Game of the Year. There you go, Travis. Best Audio, Best Debut, Best Design, Innovation Award, and Best Visual Art. So another slew of award nominations for PlayStation games. Also, Hitman 3 officially became Hitman World of Assassination this week alongside the game's new roguelike Freelancer update. Owners of Hitman 3 now get Hitman 1 and 2 content all under one more streamlined roof, while newcomers to the series have a much more direct point of entry. And my only gripe with this so far is that on my PlayStation 5, it still says Hitman 3 on the dashboard. Like, why can they not change it to Hitman World of Assassination? It's going to drive me
A
crazy.
lot.
I know.
Yeah, I'm hoping it lets me steal Hitman 1 and 2 trophies again.
From what I could tell, it is the same trophy list for 3 combined, with 1 and 2 stuff. So
Gotcha.
I don't think that's changed. Also, the PS5 continues to gain steam in Japan as it was the best-selling piece of hardware in the country for the week ending January 22nd, after it moved nearly 37,000 units. It's a minor new touch, but the PlayStation mobile app now lets you choose an in-app color scheme to match your favorite PS5 colors, such as Galactic Purple or Cosmic Red, or maybe even Nova Pink. Website Insider Gaming reported that data miners have discovered Ubisoft's next The Crew game is called The Crew Motorfest, and it could be announced as early as next week. And they report that they're trying to release it in September of this year. And it's also apparently set in Hawaii and being made on a brand new engine. No pun intended. I'm looking forward to that. Actually, I hope it's good. I would be into that, I think. Developer Vanillaware, the team behind hits like 13 Sentinels and Dragon's Crown, has revealed that they are nearly finished with their new fantasy RPG, so sounds like it might be coming this year. MLB The Show 23's marketing cycle will lead off on Monday, January 30th, with the reveal of the game's cover athlete, who is rumored to be Seattle Mariners outfielder Julio Rodriguez. And the MLB season starts on March 30th, so I'm sticking with a predicted late March release for this game. It's just around the corner. Marvel's Midnight Suns and F1 Manager 2022 have both been added as trial games for PS Plus Premium subscribers. Midnight Suns is 2 hours long, while F1 is 3 hours long. I'll have some more to say about Midnight Suns a little bit later. As I was saying earlier, Sony Pictures VR announced that Zombieland VR Headshot Fever Reload is coming to PSVR 2 to launch on February 22nd. A remastered version of the original game, Reloaded, will include support for all of PSVR 2's bells and whistles, as well as a variety of new content. That looks pretty cool. Website PlayStation Lifestyle reported that a sequel to Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins has been teased by Square Enix producer Tetsuya Nomura. It's not out-and-out PlayStation news, but Xbox developer Obsidian founder Fergus Urquhart, what a wild name, revealed this week that the studio once had a game in development to rival God of War that was inspired by Journey to the Center of the Earth, but it eventually got canceled. A slew of titles will be leaving PlayStation Plus in February, including Metro Exodus, Saints Row the Third, Pure Farming 2018, Whispering Willows, GTA Vice City, Skydrift Infinity, The Book of Unwritten Tales 2, Agatha Christie The ABC Murders, Rad Rogers, Cinemora EX, Sparkle Unleashed, and The Turing Test. So better get those in before they disappear if you want. Destiny 2 was taken offline this week for more than 24 hours as Bungie investigated issues with players losing progress. And I still don't really know if it's back up or not. I should have looked, but it is what it is. Changes to Final Fantasy XIV's online's MOG station and online store payment systems have excited fans who believe that it indicated a Final Fantasy XI remake is in the works, as there are rumors that the two subscription-based titles would merge together somehow. Okay.
That sounds really tinfoil hat-ish.
That really does. That also sounds impossible, but what do I know? Website PlayStation Universe reported that the following games received update patches this week: Hitman 3, Dead by Daylight, Destiny 2, Rocket League, Marvel's Avengers, Need for Speed Unbound, God of War Ragnarok, and Marvel's Midnight Suns. Naughty Dog once had plans for The Last of Us DLC that centered around Ellie's mother, but it was scrapped, obviously. Would have been cool.
Yeah, go fuck your mother.
The next Tomb Raider game will be revealed later this year, according to Miller Ross from Xputer.
Talk about a game getting beat in the ground.
No kidding. My God. Also, the guy has two last names, so you can't trust him. Bungie is hiring a new live service game, according to multiple job listings, and is likely one of the quote-unquote several projects that they are working on with PlayStation. God of War Ragnarok level designer Elizabeth Wright has joined Skydance New Media to work on former Uncharted director Amy Hennig's new Marvel game. Rumor has it that a major Elden Ring DLC is on the way, according to prominent From Software leaker Lance McDonald. EA confirmed that the Dead Space remake does have a new Game Plus mode, as well as a secret ending this week. Upcoming Soulsborne-style action RPG The Lords of the Fallen will include seamless and untethered co-op. The PS5 version of the upcoming Clive and Wrench action-adventure game will only run at 1080p and 30 frames per second on the next-gen console. Developer Numbskull Games revealed today. That is awful.
Go ahead, what were you going to say?
was gonna say that's unacceptable.
Oh god, I thought we had the same joke. Never mind.
Oh, what was your joke?
That's a numbskull decision.
Oh, that's good. No, I didn't think about that one. That's what you're here for. All right. Next nugget. Website Gematsu reported that side-scrolling action adventure game Saga of Sins will launch for PS4 and PS5 on March 30th. Metroidvania platforming adventure game Curse of the Sea Rats will launch for PS4 and PS5 on April 6th.
Mhm.
Unreal Engine 5 developed a real-time strategy game Empire of Ants
Jesus.
was announced for PlayStation by publisher Microids and is currently scheduled for release in 2024. Guys, this looks fucking incredible.
Of course you wouldn't be an ant.
I'm not joking.
Uh.
I am not joking. I wrote about it on Gaming Nexus. I'm all fucking in. This looks amazing. This looks amazing. They released
You're gonna
they
dig tunnels
released
in the ground.
screenshots. Huh?
You're digging tunnels in the ground.
Yeah. What's wrong with that? They only released screenshots, no gameplay at this point. It's early for that, but man, this looks and sounds great. You make alliances with other bug factions. I'm not joking.
What do you
Not
mean?
joking.
Like with like the grasshoppers from Bug's Life or what?
Yeah, pretty much. It's like an adult Bug's Life. It's based off some novel, apparently. Empire of the Ants is like a book series or some shit. I'm not making that up either. But yeah, you can contract the ladybugs or whatever to do shit. I don't know. It looks wild. I'm
Is
in.
there DLC where I come in and just accidentally knock over your anthill?
Yeah, there's a DLC where you come in and step on me with your Converses. All right. Developer Arc System Works announced Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising for PS4 and PS5. It is scheduled to launch worldwide later this year. Slice of Life game Story of Seasons, A Wonderful Life will launch for PS5 on June 27th in the West. Metal Black S Tribute has been canceled for PS4 due to an Arcade Archives version already existing on the platform. Developer City Connection announced. First of all, how do you not know this? Okay. Secondarily, they just announced this like 3 weeks ago. I'm pretty sure we've talked about this on the show in the last month. So I don't know what they're doing. French developer Embers announced otherworldly action adventure game Strayed Lights for PS4 and PS5. It will launch sometime this spring. Vertical scrolling shooter Caverns of Mars Recharged was announced for PS4 and PS5. It will launch on March 9th. Action strategy spin-off Minecraft Legends will launch for PS4 and PS5 on April 18th. Strategy RPG Redemption Reapers will launch on PS4 on February 22nd. Road 96 prequel Road 96 Mile Zero was announced for PS4 and PS5. It will launch on April 4th. Terminal Velocity Boosted Edition, an updated version of the 1995 Combat Flight Simulator, will come to consoles at some point later this year. And finally, Gematsu reported that turn-based RPG sequel Fuga Melodies of Steel 2 will launch for PS4 and PS5 on May 11th. Okay. And that is all for the news this week. I'll turn it over to Travis now for this week's new games.
On the 23rd, we had Neptunia Sisters versus Sisters. We had Risen about Jesus. Roads of Time. On the 24th, we have Forspoken, Shipwreck Escape. That's an interesting idea for a game, but I imagine it's not what I picture in my head. World War Z Aftermath with the 1 million times mentioned 1,000 zombies on screen. On the 26th, we have Wonder Boy Anniversary. On the 27th, we have Dance of Death, Dulac and Faye, Dead Space, Startup Company, and Wonderland Nights White Rabbit's Diary. So we could finally see how little people play Forspoken.
Yeah, we can see how that goes. It's getting mediocre reviews, Forspoken is, but one of the big games of the week alongside Dead Space, which is a very big release as well, the remake. It's sitting at like an 88, I think, on Metacritic, so
That's not bad.
Quite the contrary to Forspoken, it is getting reviewed very well. I haven't got to try it yet, but I will test out World War Z Aftermath, the PS5 version, and see what that's about at some point here, and see if that's as impressive as they act like. So that's all for the new games this week, and we'll start to wrap the show up here like we always do by discussing what we've been playing in the previous week and anything that we're looking forward to. What do you got?
A change up our tactics on FIFA. I did some Googling.
Oh yeah.
I found a formation that was pretty much online. It was like, this is the way you should play co-op, and it's basically built around speed and finding as much speed as you can and playing people like necessarily some guys are out of position. It doesn't matter as long as their speed's out there, because when you play co-op online, the computer's not really doing a whole lot, so it doesn't matter that you have a
Right.
center back that isn't a center back as long as they're fast, because you're the one making the decision. So
Right.
we did that. We played a game with somebody, and it did not go well. And then we started playing with leads, and we had some good success there. So it seems to work once we get used to the formation. I think it will work. I'm pretty sure if we just stopped, like, if the computer would let us pass it where we wanted it to every time, I think we would tie
Yeah.
every game.
I
It's
I
like
agree.
we've only really lost like twice because we weren't good enough. Like, all the other losses have been like, by a goal or two, and it's literally like I tried to clear the ball and it wouldn't let me kick it. And I was just
Yeah.
running beside the ball and they took it from me and scored. Or you went to kick it to the middle of the field and it decided it was going to kick it right to the guy in front of you. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's like it's just ridiculous. So hopefully we'll continue that.
Yeah, it does some silly shit.
Play a little GT Sport. I'm trying to I've just mostly been watching the auction to try to find the 2 cars for the trophy I need,
Mhm.
but I did a couple races. The races weren't bad this week. All the races were actually pretty good, but, I did a race at Laguna Seca, one of my favorite tracks. Like, the 3rd lap, 2 cars spun, and then I tried to split the gap, and then they clipped me, and then I ended up slamming into the wall, and I had, like, a 2-second penalty because I hit the wall, and then they didn't, even though they hit each other and then hit me. So I quit, and I was like, just fucking over it. And then I just decided I wanted to finish a couple of races. It's all I wanted to do. So I did a couple of races at Watkins Glen. I had two. I think I came in second and third is what I did. So I just hadn't finished. It felt like I hadn't finished a race in so long. I was like, I'm going to finish two. That's what I'm going to do before I get off. So I did two. Came second and third. It was fine. So it's like sometimes you just have to reset and
Yeah.
do a race where you don't push the whole race. Just do a race where you just kind of cruise around and let shit happen around you and just finish. So I did that. I don't know. We'll see. I still get so annoyed sometimes about the ranked stuff. But what's funny is
Yeah.
like when that game came out, I was a hair away for being level A, and now I'm a hair away from being level C. And it's because like before, like, people would push me out of the way or crash me, and I would just get back in line and finish the race, right? And now it's like, if they hit me or crash me, I literally take them out. So, it just lowers my
So
driver rating completely.
yeah.
Um, it nullifies the fact that I have any kind of pace, because then it puts me in these dog shit lobbies, and then, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. So, I'll try to get back in the habit of finishing races, and that'll help. And then we played some Battlefield. We had the whole crew on a couple times.
Oh yeah.
It's so that God, just sniping on that game is so satisfying, and all they did was add in that little noise for headshots. That's all they added.
Yeah, it's like a little melon
Yeah,
bursting sort of thing.
nothing is different. The mechanics are the same. It shoot anyway, but they
Mhm.
add that little mechanic in. I love it. Super satisfying. I've been using the Scar, and it's been great. I have a lot more luck with it. It seems like I understand how to use that gun. A lot of the other ones, they just don't really work for me. Aside from the AK, like, I tried all the assault rifles and it just doesn't. I just can't get it to work. But those two, for whatever reason, work. Anyway, Crushed, we play a lot of it actually.
Mhm.
I sent you guys that video of like, we spawn on the Canada map. I'm running across A because it didn't put me in anything, so I'm just running across A for like 5 minutes, and I'm coming up where you look across the void to where those cargo containers are by A.
Mm.
Like, I'm looking from A, and John's standing up on a guardrail with his rocket out, and it's just the game is so funny sometimes, like, the shit that happens, like, you're running, and you just see a dude in the open with an RPG, which I imagine is not what happens. And
Right.
he shoots it, and I thought, I know you can't shoot one with one shot. I'm gonna pull my RPG out and just trace it. So like I just pull out my RPG, I pull up the sights, see the tank, and I shoot it. And I just happened to be the guy who shot last. And I don't even know how many. I got like 5 or 6 kills in the feed, just popped up immediately. Um, but yeah, it's just
I
like
loved it.
that shit. That's what makes that game fun. Is just like
It's
that.
moments like that. It's battlefield moments.
Yeah, and then, like, we were playing Breakthrough, and we got stuck on C1, and, like, it was the last spot they needed to take, and we ended up dropping, like, 200 tickets out of C1, like, while we were defending, like, that's what makes
Yeah.
Battlefield fun is you just get in these wild situations where, like, the KD goes out the window and, like, you're whatever, you know what I mean? You're just trying to, like, hold the fort down, so,
Yeah.
but anyway, yeah, that's all I've been into, nothing else really next week. At some point, I'm gonna get on the Hitman. That'll be for sure happening, so
Oh
I'm
yeah.
looking forward to that.
Yeah. I really enjoyed Battlefield this week. It's good to have everybody, all the lads, back together, the band back together to play. I'm looking forward to the big update on Monday too. It's a big Battlefield update. They're changing quite a bit. They're going back to the class system they've had on previous games. They're lumping the different specialists into a certain class, etc. They're adding new weapons. They're reworking a map. They're preparing for basically the next season that comes out in a month. And I also discovered this week because I thought I read somewhere that there was not going to be a new specialist in season 4, but there is. And it will be the last one. So there's going to be one more new specialist added in the new season, which comes out in February, and that'll be the last one. So, yeah, I love that game, and just like you said, it's the Battlefield moments that separate that from Call of Duty. There's just something about Battlefield that is so inherently different from a Call of Duty game that just makes it good. And like I've been saying for a long time on the show, that Battlefield 2042 has been a good game now for a long time, for about a year, I would say almost. They've just righted the ship, so to speak. We did play FIFA 23 as well, like you said, co-op seasons. We're getting better. We're figuring it out. Got our lads from Leeds United that we've been playing with, so we're getting there. We're on the door. And also played Police Simulator. I'm proud to report that, or happy to report, I should say, that the trophies are not glitched. I have one trophy left to get the platinum. I have to legally arrest 40 people for driving under the influence. And I would say I've got to be danger close to that from all the times, just playing the game. And then you and I were playing together there for a while. And so I got to be oh so close to that platinum trophy. Played some two trials this week. Played the trial for Marvel's Midnight Suns, and I gotta say that game is very cool. That game's really cool. I was worried because the thing with those games from Firaxis, the developer, is that like they always start out really cool, but then they get hard at some point, and then I get frustrated. So doesn't seem like that would be the case with this one. It's very cool concept, very cool execution. So I think I'll keep my eye out for that one for a sale to pick that up at some point. The other trial that I played was Gotham Knights, which I have to admit, I don't think it's as bad as everyone says it is or said it was. I don't know if they've updated things or what, but even at 30 frames per second, I thought it was very playable. I did not notice any issues necessarily with the frame rate, just on the performance side of things. And I thought the gameplay was fine. It's similar to the other Batman Arkham games that we've had in the past. So I don't know that I'll pick that one up per se, but I've got to say was surprised by it, in the very least. Especially considering after the poor reception that it got. So, but yeah, that's all I've been playing this week. Like I said, looking forward to the new Battlefield update on Monday. Looking forward to checking out the new freelancer mode for Hitman. And what else? I'm reviewing a game currently, so I might have a review out for it this coming week. And then before you know it, it'll be PSVR2 time. So anyway, that's it for me. That's it for Travis. That's it for the show. We'll get out of here now. Thank you very much for listening. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to subscribe to us on your podcast feed as well as the YouTube to get a new episode delivered to you every Monday. Also, if you could leave us a rating or review, that would be very much appreciated. Likes and comments on YouTube are helpful as well, as is sharing us with a friend or a loved one who you think may enjoy a PlayStation podcast like this very one here. We would love to talk in their ear holes as well. Don't forget to find us on social media, Twitter at the DualSense Pod, but we're also on Instagram, Facebook, our blog. Find us, chat with us. We would love to hear from you. We'll get out of here. You have a great week. Take care, and thank you for listening. Bye-bye.